Hello friends, my name's Kayla and I have been on Booktube for 10 years. To celebrate 10 years of my channel, I'm spending a whole year every single month doing a vlog that reflects on the 10 years, especially like my first year, reflecting on my first year. I'm gonna redo my first vlog, my first tag. In this video, we are going to reread some of my favorite books from my first year on Booktube. Now, choosing the books is a really difficult decision because I have a selection of favorites to choose from. I actually already did a series where I was rereading my questionable favorites, the books that I thought I would probably take my rating back for, and I indeed did for many of them. There's definitely part of me that wants to recreate that and pick up things that maybe I wouldn't love now and have to reflect on, but you would tell me to read just what I want to read for the joy of it. And so my Aries heart that loves a little bit of chaos, I think I'm gonna do a mix of the two. My very first year on Booktube, not a lot of 5s were found. My favorites video had a significant amount of 4 stars and I've reflected on many of these already, like I said. And the ones remaining, I have no interest in really rereading thrillers. That's just not that fun, or mysteries. So we're left with I'll Give You the Sun and Eleanor and Park. The latter being a 4 and something that I know wouldn't hold up. And I think that it would be a good thing for me to re-explore, not the plot itself and like the rampant racism that people have called out for this book since I read it, but more like confronting myself with why I didn't see it. The biases that I held as a reader, especially in my early 20s, when reading broadly was not my priority and my privilege clouded my judgment. This was maybe the 10th book. I don't know where it is, which is why I'm not grabbing it. I have to scour my shelves for some of these books. It was probably like the 10th book that I read in my adult life, like period. Though obviously it is a teen book. And I was picking up a lot of teen books because that is what I was predominantly reading the last time that I had read significant amounts of books, which is when I was in my teens. So that I think will be an interesting exploration to go through together. The other thing on the list is I'll Give You the Sun. This is on my bookshelves still to this day because I know it holds up. Like, this has to hold up. I would be devastated if I didn't love this now. Maybe that's why I've never reread it in all of these 10 years. Now, looking at my 2015 favorites, at this point, I have like 100 more books under my belt. So I feel like, be able to trust these ones more. There's another Rainbow Rowell here. I grappled with which of the 2 Rainbow Rowells to reread. I actually put a poll up to my channel members to help me choose because I didn't know which one was the right choice. And somebody, first of all, it's completely split. To this day, it's 50-50 exactly. So I guess I just have to make the decision myself, and I already did. But somebody reminded me in the comments that I've already reread Carry On and I completely forgot about it. I think it was like a year after reading it for the first time. It was in like a lullathon capacity. Maybe it must have been a couple years later, actually. I don't remember like anything about that book. I don't think either of them I'm gonna love the same now, so I'm gonna go with the one that I can at least have something to gain from it. And then Mara Dyer being here just seems like such a fun pick. The Raven Cycle holds up, so why wouldn't this paranormal romance, right? The thing about this is I put the second book in the series as my favorite because I gave it a 5, and I gave the other 2 books like a 3.5 or a 4. But I think I need to reread the first and second one just to make it make sense. And then nothing else is really calling to me here. So if we're talking about reading what I want to read what 2015 would want me to read, because I did a video where I talked about the books that I want to reread. And at this point, 10 years later, I never have. And they're interesting picks.
And then I have 6 books that I want to reread this year. That's my last category. So the first one is Unravel, and I only read that a couple months ago, but I really want to reread it because it has like a twist and I want to reread.
Again, I have no idea where on the shelves these are. We're gonna have to find them because I'm not necessarily proud of these picks. I held on to them because I know that they're favorites, but I don't think that they hold up. But there is something so appealing about rereading a book once you know the twist. And these ones both have interesting reveals that I had a lot of fun with back in the day. Plus, I did standalone book reviews for both of these books, and that could be fun to look back on after I film my review now, going back and watching and seeing what I thought then. In fact, Unravel was the book that inspired me to film my first ever standalone book review. So clearly I had really strong feelings about it. So we're gonna get right into it. I think what I'm gonna do, I wanna save this for last. And what I'm going to do is just look for the books, and whichever one I come across first is going to be the first one that I read. I think that's a good way to go about this. I'm pretty sure where I just pulled I'll Give You the Sun from, one of them is back here. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, maybe I'm really wrong. You know what is back here? Mere Christianity. Okay, anyway. Try again with this shelf. Oh, I found it. Okay, I had a general idea of where it was. This is the basic 8, and I have Post-its. I'm actually about to leave on a tournament weekend for Liam's hockey, and I'm gonna be able to read more than one book while we're away. So I'm gonna grab another one. I'm pretty sure down here. Oh, they weren't even hidden. They were just sitting right in the front. I never bought the 3rd book, or if I bought it, it's hidden back here somewhere because it wasn't a 4, so I couldn't display it, I guess. Oh, and there's tabs in this one too. Okay, so this will be fun to see if I'm still shocked, because that's what this pink Post-it meant. Something happened right here that I was like, oh my God. So these are my plans for the weekend. Maybe this one? I'll just see how things go.
What's wrong with you?
He's investigating my book.
Try to fix the imperfections of the overbite.
He just saw me bring this and he went, didn't you already read this?
Mara Dyer.
Like 3 years ago. The fact that you recognize it at all is crazy.
It is?
Why would you recognize a book I read 10 years ago?
Doesn't this lady have a bunch of books about her?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
But you know all about Mara
I
Dyer.
just recognize the name. I can recognize the imperfections of bent corners and dog
show them
ears.
how shitty the spine looks.
You mean the overbite? This is gonna be what Liam looked like before braces.
That's crazy.
After
Why would you
braces.
say that?
Before braces. After braces.
You didn't appreciate that. I could not have parked in a worse place to kick off the vlog. Okay, I'm starting The Uncoming of Mara Dyer, and I don't remember what it's about. Hello?
I didn't mean to like that.
I do have I do have some shock moments. That's the pink tabs. I've got orange moments, which are funny moments. Green is for just like plot development, and I think I need to watch my review of it from 10 years ago with you so we can figure out what the book's about. All I remember is Mara Dyer is in some kind of... You're really looking at me.
I'm zoned out completely.
You could be in the video if you like. No? I'm gonna put, I was gonna say 14-year-old me. Wouldn't that be nice? 2014 me. You wanna listen?
I'm gonna go get a lunch. I'll be back.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you and digital you meet and greet and be friends.
I need to make this quick because my battery, I need to save to film the games. Liam's in a tournament, like I think I said. He's already played 2. They went terribly. What I remember is Mara Dyer is in like a mental health institution or something. And I do also remember there being a scene of like a building crumbling. So that's what I remember. Is she making the building crumble? Something like that. It's paranormal, so either she did it or a ghost. Oh, the side bangs go hard.
I read The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, The Evolution of Mara Dyer, and The Retribution of Mara Dyer. I read it all in 24 hours. I was sucked in. I was like all about it. I don't know.
24 hours?
I don't know like if I would label it one of my favorite series because I haven't read that many series in completion. And I gave the first book 4 out of 5. I was hooked. I was like, this is really interesting. I can see the flaws. I can see why people don't like it. I gave it like a 4 out of 5, so it was imperfect. And then the second book I gave a 5 out of 5 because there was a lot more action. It's like a paranormal romance kind of thing. And it was so good. The second book was
What's
so
it about?
good. And then the third book I gave a 3.5 out of 5 because it wasn't one of those endings that like I hated. I didn't hate the ending. I'm not angry about the ending. I just don't think the last book as a whole was as well done as the first and second. I think the characters changed a lot.
About
I
what?
think like their personalities and their choices and their reactions to things were a lot different, and I kind of felt like it was written by a different person. It was weird. But overall, the series was really good, and I totally recommend it, and I'm sad that it took me so long to get into it, because Mara Dyer and Noah Shaw are just, oh my god, they're like my OTP. And I don't get that obnoxious for just any book. And then the last series that I read was the Selection series, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. All of it.
Oh god, okay. I have reread The Selection. Did not hold up, so that does not bode well for this, which I still have no idea what the plot is. And if you watched my videos in 2014, you didn't get a good idea of what it was either. Oh god, and this isn't gonna help me. Mara Dyer, wow. Synopses are so much longer nowadays. Mara Dyer doesn't think life can get any stranger than waking up in a hospital with no memory of how she got there. It can. Okay. She believes there must be more to the accident she can't remember that killed her friends and left her mysteriously unharmed. There is. She doesn't believe that after everything she's been through, she can fall in love. She's wrong. What is it about? Okay, her friends die and she is unharmed, and I think it's messing with her mind. PTSD, and then she goes to a new school, and Noah Shaw is a student there, and he's like a cool, popular kind of guy, and she doesn't think that he'll like her, and then he does, and then they're in love, and then something paranormal. I'm just gonna pop in the audiobook and listen to it while I'm watching the game, and I'll tell you my rating about it. This was not technically a favorite. The second book was. So I'm just gonna fly through this one, and then I'll physically read the other one later on. Okay, now wish Liam luck for this game, because it has to go better. He did score though. He scored a goal yesterday. I'll show you that. And I'll show you if he does anything great in this game. Okay, these hotel room walls are extremely thin, so I'm gonna keep my voice down and just tell you what I'm thinking so far. I'm almost done with it, and maybe I'll film myself reading the last like couple chapters, because I know that I said in my review originally, like there's a twist, like there's a reveal, so it made me absolutely have to pick up the next book, and I can't wait to see if it gets me. First of all, the audiobook was not the way to go. Listening to the depiction of Noah Shaw's English accent, oh, it's bad. This really reads like a teen movie to me. It's just, everything is so over the top and ridiculous seeming. Like Mara is answering a question in class and everyone's like stands up and claps for her, and like her and Noah Shaw walk in the school for the first time together, and he puts his arm around her and everyone's like, oh, Noah Shaw would never do that. Like there must be something so special about Mara. And then one day Mara comes to school and there are a bunch of guys who are like looking at her. And Noah just like starts beating people up because how dare you look at Mara, and like leave, like they're making advances towards her because like Noah Shaw is showing her the time of day. So now they want in on the action. And so Noah like beats them up. Oh, and of course every girl hates Mara because she's just so perfect and special, and like why would Noah want her, and everyone's so mad at her. We haven't gotten too much paranormal stuff. There's been an ID, but mostly it's Mara just like recovering and dealing with her PTSD and like meeting different therapists, and her parents have to think about stopping like work to help her, support her, because all of her friends died in that building collapse, and like she feels kind of guilty for it. And then I remembered why, and she does have a supernatural kind of power. But I don't know if it's should I spoil? I think I might. Let's just like give the caveat now that I am gonna spoil all of these books if I feel like it, because if you were gonna read them, maybe you would have like 10 years ago. Basically, Mara can't trust her own mind. She like thinks she's hallucinating sometimes, and maybe she is. And we find out that the building collapsed because Jude was like assaulting her, the guy that she was kind of dating, and she took down the building basically, and his body was never recovered. And then at the end of the book, she sees him like in real life, so he's not a hallucination. He really got out of the event, which is like crazy to think a high schooler faked his own death. But I am, in fact, intrigued. And I want to pick up book number 2 because a couple things that happened in here, including like her brother getting kidnapped, I thought happened in book 2. So I have zero memories of what happens in that second one. Oh, what's my rating? I don't know. Like, I feel like I had a good time with it, but obviously any YA paranormal is not going to do anything for me much current day, especially if it was written over 10 years ago. I don't know. I think I would give it like 3.5. So only going down half a star from 10 years ago. It's pretty good. Okay, final tournament update. They were in the bronze game. There's this dog walking around this arena. Every time we come, the dog is still here. He must be a well-known dog. Is he just gonna walk right in? Like, people seem to know the dog and they sometimes let the dog in the building. And I don't know who he belongs to, and I just saw his owner tell him to stay outside, so I guess he just hangs out here. Okay, anyway, they lost their final game, but they were ahead, and then it was so close, and then it was so close for so long, and then they lost. And now we are headed home. I started reading Mara Dyer last night, but I just couldn't really focus. My mind was elsewhere, so I will read it when I get home. We're home. I desperately need to wash my hair, so I will, I promise. Hold me to it. I am 44 chapters of the way through the second Mara Dyer book. And we have learned some things about Mara and Noah. They're kind of faded feeling in a way, and they both have something paranormal, supernatural going on with themselves. Like I said, I'm gonna spoil it, not like too heavily, but there's this idea that Noah can sense or can like hear Mara or can hear people in general, and he also can't really feel pain. So he has these powers and Mara has these powers, which is why they're connecting in the first place. And so a lot of this book is exploring why they might have these powers and investigating like their families. I think their families used to know each other, like his grandma knew her mom or the other way around. And they were like learning things about themselves. Mara learns from her mother that her grandmother also had certain powers, but like obviously Mara's parents don't know that they're powers, and they think that Mara is just having a mental break. But she talks about how her own mother had these ideas of magic and constantly asked her like, do you have any like things that you can do? Do you have any things that are unexplained? And her mom was always like, she was a little wacky. She took her own life like right when Mara was born. She's just revealing some interesting things about their family history. And Mara is choosing to be open with Noah because Noah understands her like better than anybody. And so it's this really typical kind of teen story about, your parents not understanding you and you getting into a relationship and that's someone that you really trust. At the beginning of the book, Mara gets put into a mental health hospital, and I don't know if all the dialogue around that is super great. Like, she's talking about the other people who are there and they're like totally crazy and psychotic, and she doesn't feel like she really belongs there. And I think what's good about this book is everything is not explained away by her abilities. She is experiencing PTSD. Like, she is hallucinating. There are certain things that are pretty factual in the book that she is misseeing and mishearing. And I like that there is both things going on at the same time, because the topics it's covering are really great and intentional. It just talked about abortion. Noah is talking to her about feeling safe with him, and she has such trauma from being assaulted and the guy in front of her dying, and her being responsible for that in her mind, though we don't know at this point if he's actually dead, because to her, like, he's following her around and like leaving her messages and stuff. But so Noah is just making her feel very safe, and they have constant communication about her fear of hurting him, and he doesn't want to go too fast with her, but they're so in love already that they want to move their relationship further, but he's constantly telling her to like pause and really think about what she wants and how she feels and get in tune with her emotions. And I think that's just really great to see in this story. I will say I'm not liking this any more than the first book. I could see why I did in the past though, because Mara and Noah are having all of these intimate moments, and they're getting closer, and they're having all these great conversations, and they're just like talking about how in love they are with each other basically. And I was, loving that. I didn't actually realize that the author never wrote the final book in the secondary trilogy. So there's the Mara Dyer trilogy, and then there's the Noah Shaw trilogy, which I started and was not for me. And I assumed that the trilogy wrapped up, and I just never heard anything about it, and I wasn't planning on continuing. But apparently the last thing she published was in 2017 or 2019, and she just never published the last book, and also has just like haven't spoken on the internet in like 3 to 4 years, like has just vanished. The publisher has no information about it or her. She has no like public blog or social media, and she's just disappeared, which is very strange. check me out. I'm one step closer to washing my hair. It's down. Ooh, it's down now. I went to the grocery store like this. I mean, it's not that horrific. And now Rob is at Costco, even though I already went to the grocery store. Oh, he texted me pretzels. I just told the man I don't want pretzels. We don't have a Costco card because we don't need a Costco card. It would only make my life worse, promise. That he goes with his parents probably like once every 6 months or something. And every time he comes home with the giant thing of peanut butter pretzels, and like I eat 2 of them and then I can't breathe because they're so thick and then I don't want them again. And the thing just sits in the cupboard for those 6 months, and I finally just got rid of it. And then I was like, whatever you do, don't bring home the pretzels. And then he sends me a picture of the pretzels, and I don't know if it's to egg me on or if it's just to show me like how popular they are. Like everybody wants the pretzels. He doesn't even eat them. Liam doesn't eat them. Like I think they're for me. Like one of those things where you say something you like one time and then somebody, it's like being on Extreme Makeover Home Edition when you're like, oh, I like frogs, and suddenly you'd have an entire frog bedroom for the next 10 years. That's me with these pretzels. He better not come home with pretzels. I'll show you what he comes home with. He's supposed to only be buying a pillow. That's all he's doing. And now he's gonna come home with, he better not come home with a flat. If he walks in with the cardboard flat and it's full of shit, oh man. Apparently, rumor has it, my pillow that I stole, I don't think I've ever told this story because why would I? It wasn't from a store, but I stole this pillow. I've had it for like 5 years and it's starting to get really lumpy and I really need to swap it out, but I'm so incredibly picky about pillows, which is why I stole this in the first place. Rumor has it, those are from Costco. I just learned, the Calvin Klein pillows. So if it was that easy this whole time to find my perfect pillow, I mean, I'll be happy, but I will also be devastated. I think there's no way, because this feels like the fanciest pillow on the planet, which is why I stole it. Anyway, I finished this. And what thoughts do I have? I enjoyed it the same as the first one, so I'm also giving it a 3.5. I definitely see what I saw in it back in the day. I don't think I would recommend it over any other YA paranormal that's like currently being published. I don't think it does anything that particularly special or impressive. Not that I'm reading a lot of YA paranormal that's currently being published. There's definitely some interesting developments. The guy who Mara saw indeed did not die. In fact, he is a part of the entire hospitalization process for Mara, and he's working with like the doctors of this clinic to do this like underground secret research about her and these other children, including Noah, about this gene that they carry that gives them powers. What's he gonna send me now? Okay, maybe I would be interested in the Quest protein chips. So she's basically been in these kind of medical trials without knowing it, and like her family didn't know about it, her doctors didn't know about it, and it feels like it's going in a direction of like superheroes, like X-Men, where they're all like, let's get together and figure out our powers together, because the other kids in the institution also have things going on. And I barely remember what happens in the 3rd book, but I do recall Noah is like not even in it for the majority, because at the end of this book, Mara thinks that he's dead. And I don't know if us as readers are really supposed to believe that he's dead, because that seems ridiculous. But so that's that on that. Is that all I wanted to say? I think so. I really love their romance. I think it's nice. I'm not swooning over them the way that I did when I was in my early 20s. And no one is shocked. Now let's move on to the basic 8. I have already moved on to the basic 8. I love the writing of this. I think Daniel Handler is a questionable author. I cannot recall now. He's the Lemony Snicket guy. And I haven't read those, but I feel as though his writing style goes beyond, like you can sense that it's the same author, because of the style of that is like from a character who is also the author, you know, fictionalized, and is like telling this quirky story. And in here, and also in Why We Broke Up, which is another one of my favorites that I don't need to reread because I remember it like pretty vividly. All I remember about this is the plot twist at the end, which I will go ahead and spoil for you in a moment. And as I watch my review back, we'll see what I said about it then. We have a very quirky, unlikable, murderous protagonist. She's in high school. Her name's Flannery. She's very pretentious. Her friend group is pretentious. and she has committed some kind of crime, and we're reading her journals like leading up to it. And because she's unlikable, oh my gosh, I took notes. I'm about to get to that point. I'm at like 75 pages. If this man comes home with 12 jumbo muffins, I don't know what to do with him. I think people could and do take issue with this character's voice, especially because it's written by like a man about a teenage girl, and he's saying things like, oh, I'm so fat and I better start taking care of my health, and like my thighs are touching, and if I gain more weight I'm gonna look like a sideshow act. Like, yeah, that's not nice to say, but I just feel like Flannery is a weirdly relatable character, not in the murderous way, but just the way that she's writing her journal entries as if they're going to be published one day, as if people are going to read them, and she needs to dramatize things that are happening in the way that she's speaking. I just see myself in her journal entries. And I do think that it depicts like teenage girls, and it's not supposed to be fat representation because Flannery is not fat, but so many teenage girls like have this, you know, body dysmorphia or just insecurity and exacerbated way about speaking about themselves, that this is the way that Flannery, you know, sees herself, and that's her excuse for like why this boy doesn't like her or why this isn't happening for her. Regardless of that, I really do like this. I do. I'm having a good time. And her journal entries also end with like study questions. So it's just so fun. The writing style is so fun. This is what I look for in like the fun, cozy thrillers that I read that are direct to reader, that are letting you in on stuff, breaking the fourth wall. And she'll reference things from the last journal entry, the last chapter, and the classes that she's taking. She'll say like, the stories of great operas contain thwarted love, jealous anger, and violent murder, and are called great art. Yet others who demonstrate these things have been punished. Isn't this hypocritical? Discuss. Number 4, you have undoubtedly seen photographs of Flannery Culp in newspapers and magazines. Is she fat? Be honest. So the idea is that she's writing this journal or exposing this journal after the fact, after being accused of this murder. And us as the reader are supposed to have like known all about it and know who she is and have seen her story in the news, and we need to now make up our own minds about what occurred and if we believe Flannery. And so it's slowly leading up to that like reveal of what the crime was. But there's actually another hidden reveal going on, and it might have been my first time that I ever read that type of reveal, and I can see I have a pink post-it right at the end, and I'm assuming that's when the moment happens. The intent of rereading this or wanting to reread it back in like 2015 when it was on my TBR was because I wanted to read it with knowing what the twist was, and so I am most definitely having my eye out to see if I can catch certain mentions of what's really going on. You don't have another one. Notice how there's not pillows in that box. Are you joking?
What?
Why do you have so much stuff?
I got stuff for my lunches mostly.
Stuff you don't actually want to eat or plan to eat.
No, but I plan to eat it because I need to eat better. Our protein bars for the kid. Scrub daddies and mommies because we need new ones anyway. Dried mangoes. Oil, they were on sale.
Check it out. I washed my hair and I finished my book. So no one can stop me. I'm also trying a new eyebrow pencil out because mine ran out and they didn't have any more red, and I feel like this might be a little too cool of a color, but I'm not totally sure. Also, you can't really help me because in this lighting it doesn't really mean anything. I am going to stick with my 4-star rating, and this gave me pretty much everything that I want from a reread. I had the nostalgia of remembering the moments. I had the period of time where it was leading up to a reveal, and then I got to recognize all the things that I didn't previous. I got to enjoy the writing again of something that I really loved, and it was just overall a fun time. There are most definitely things that I would pinpoint that I would say this is something I wouldn't recommend really broadly because it was published in the 90s and it's by, I don't know, like a middle-aged white man. There's just questionable content, questionable language, and I definitely didn't remember it getting as explicit as it did. It's so uncomfortable to talk about because this is a teen book. It does get more explicit than you would want to read as an adult. Not that it's marketed as adult, but like as an adult reading from an adult man, knowing that he wrote it from the perspective of a teenage girl. It's uncomfortable, but also we got to explore certain facets of Flannery's personality that were interesting, and she was learning things about herself, and she's, she's a murderer. So it's interesting, like, learning how we get there and how everything turns out. It's kind of a YA version, a little bit, of The Secret History. Kind of a little bit of We Were Liars, Heathers, a little bit of Clueless, just these very self-involved, pretentious teenagers having dinner parties, being wealthy. And it's got that classic YA feel of like, where are the parents? How is all of this happening with no parental supervision? And it really feels satirical. It feels ironic. It's over the top. It's dramatic, much like Heathers is. And for that, it's fun. The big reveal is that Flannery is, I don't think you even know by the end of the book if she knowingly invented a character in here or if she is having a mental health crisis and or it's trying to give like a multiple personality mental health thing. And I guess it's good that it doesn't solidify it for us, because then he could be questioned more. I think it's intentional, because then he could be questioned on the representation. But instead, because it's her journal entries, and then it's also her editing her own journal entries, which is just a style that I really love. She talks about this character who is frequently in the book. She's one of the Basic 8, her friend group. I haven't described what the Basic 8 is. It's her and all of her best friends and love interests and exes, and they do everything together. One of the girls, you find out, doesn't exist at the end. But I apparently clocked it 70 pages in the first time. I didn't know for sure. It was like a questionable thing. I thought maybe one of the characters wasn't real, but I didn't know which one it was. And so when she got in this altercation with this boy and killed him, she blocked it out of her memory. And this other girl, she, imagined it was her doing it. And it's interesting because I feel like when that is a plot point, when that's a reveal, you can pinpoint all of the moments where like nobody else saw that character or spoke to that character. And it's very eye-opening that like, oh, I interpreted everything as being real, but the main character's so unreliable because she would like hang out with this girl named Natasha, and her and Natasha were best friends. But then you realize in all of the scenes they were together, no one else ever acknowledged Natasha. But that's not what this one is. That's what so many others that I've read since do. But in this one, everyone talks to Natasha. Everyone sees her. She makes an impact. She like picks Flannery up from her house. So it's kind of just like every time Flannery's talking about Natasha, she's talking about herself. So when someone is talking to Natasha, they were actually talking to Flannery. When Natasha convinces Flannery to do certain things, stand up for herself, be bold, there's certain things going on like at school with teachers and teachers' assistants and like uncomfortable dynamics. Natasha's like, you better do something about this. And it's just actually Flannery's internal monologue in her reality, just like that version of herself. She wants to be more like Natasha. And so she's like invented a friend to look up to. Let's take a very quick look at my review, see if I said anything of value in it or feel any differently about anything. Imagine I just say the exact same thing I said now, because I know that it was a spoiler review.
This book, I feel like, should have more hype around it.
Disagree.
It's just written in such a cool way. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know, The Wolf of Wall Street for some reason. Like how the guy's just like talking to you. And
I just had not read enough books at that point to make a better comparison to something.
Just a group of like rich, parents aren't really involved. Parents don't even like make an appearance in this book at all. Group of self-obsessed teenagers. At the end of every chapter, she has a list of vocab words and study questions as if it's like a textbook, and it is so funny. I don't feel like we really found out if she was just making up this character like in the book, or if she really saw this character in real life, or if she was trying to come across like she had psychotic issues, or if she really did have a mental illness. Like, I don't think we really knew, and maybe if I reread it I would get a little more like I feel a little more satisfied by the ending.
10 years later, and I had the exact same thing to say. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I loved how they repeated scenes. She had the exact same conversation with two different people, and I thought that was so interesting. And I loved it when they did the end scene with the photo. Like at the beginning, she describes the photo like 4 different times, and I'm like, why is she describing the same photo?
I still love repetition. I still love seeing the same scene from different characters' perspectives or with a different piece of information. And there is this photograph mentioned. It's like, here's all 8 of us sitting on this couch. Natasha's lying here, this person's lying here, and then at the end of the book you revisit the photograph and it's like Natasha was never there. Okay, so I didn't really have anything to gain from watching that back, but it was fun. And I like that I pretty much have all of the same thoughts, but I have just a little bit more of a critical eye. So that's it for this, and next I'll probably read something that I know won't hold up. I cannot for the life of me find Eleanor and Park, and I think it might be under my couch. Nobody knows about the secret stash of books I have under my couch. I mean, except for the people who live here. Oh, and now I'm gonna need to dust. There's just like a stack of things that, you know, like 3 stars. Can't believe I'm revealing this to you all. But like, yeah, I have more or less run out of room on my shelves, but there are books that I just shove under here because like I want to keep them, but I know I'm never gonna really reference them. Like, this is just nostalgic. I'm gonna hold on to it. And I feel like Eleanor and Park might be under here, or I unhauled it, which would be annoying. But based on the other things that are under here, I think it would be too. Oh my god, I'm gonna sweep under here, fine. Oh my god. Ricky, when I find you, Ricky. See, it's like, what am I gonna do with this? I'm obviously gonna keep it. Oh my god, this hurts. You know, at least I haven't found anything else really crazy under here. Ow! Okay, I did find a Kleenex. That's pretty bad. I'm making one final push to find this book before I just give up and get it from the library or find the audiobook. And look what I find. Unravel, which I would have needed to scour for anyway. I'm thinking maybe if this is here, oh god, Eleanor and Park will be right behind it. I'm wrong. I definitely did not unhaul this book because somewhere deep down, like, I knew I wanted to reread it someday. Also, I'm just remembering I told you that I was going to read them in the order that I found them, and then I didn't. I read Mara Dyer first because I forgot. I don't want to read another thing about mental illness right now. I have to give up at some point, and this just might be it. But no Eleanor and Park. Okay, so I just stopped at the library to grab some things. I filmed a little haul for TikTok, and I didn't check if they have Eleanor and Park, but I think maybe I'll just search it really quick in the app to see if I can grab it. I did grab the audiobook, and I'm 20% of the way in, and basically we have Eleanor and Park, and they haven't had they're both struggling in life. Eleanor's mother has gotten with this new guy, her new stepdad, who she doesn't get along with. She didn't get to live with her family for a period of time because she just wasn't getting along with everybody. She is fat, and I think I've really appreciated the representation because at this time, I mean, when I was a teenager, there was like, I can't think of any books that had good fat representation. Like anything that had a fat character, which was rare in the first place, dealt with fatness like very harmfully. So when I read Eleanor and Park, I was like, oh, this is so great that I get to see myself kind of in a character, and I know a lot of people felt the same way. And what's unfortunate is that we get some representation at the expense of someone else's poor representation, because Park is equally the main character. It's not like Eleanor, it's called Eleanor and Park. They both have perspectives, they both share their lives, and Rainbow Rowell isn't necessarily handling Park's character the way that a lot of Korean people appreciate. I think a vehicle is about to park right beside me, so you might have to dip down in just a second. There was parking back there. It's set in the 80s. They bond over music. They feel a connection to each other that they haven't really found before. It's interesting because, where are you going? Oh, you just parked like an idiot. You parked like an idiot again. Oh, you're just gonna go with that? Okay. It's interesting because Eleanor is coming to a new school and Park is already there. And it's saying things from her perspective like Eleanor had never really dealt with bullying like this before. Like, she's a bigger girl. The first time Park sees her, he says she's like big and awkward. He calls her a dumb redhead in his first chapter, and then she calls him a stupid Asian kid in hers, both just in their own minds. And I just think it's an interesting choice to write a romance where the two people like are against each other from the beginning and have to like be convinced that the other person is actually like worthy of their attention. Just making judgments right off the bat. Like, if it was a book specifically about that, like them judging each other and then having their minds changed and realizing that their biases don't matter and whatever, that would be a different story. That's not what this is. Like, they feel connected right off the bat and they're both like the other person is just fine. Like, they don't actually hold many biases towards them, but the book acts like it does at the beginning. So it's just strange. Okay, there is someone coming. Hold on. Oh, you can't park either. Okay. Anyway, Park is definitely experiencing some microaggressions from even his best friends. And so I don't think that people so much take issue with that existing in the book, but with Rainbow Rowell just not handling things properly. I was surprised because the phrase, the first time that Eleanor says something like fucking weird about Park, is she says, I wondered if he, fuck, this is why I hate that I don't have the physical book. I wonder if he sees the world the same way as I do because his eyes are shaped differently. And then she says right after that, and that was probably the most racist thought that I could have had. So there is some at least like self-awareness. There are people calling each other out for things. When someone says something to Park, Park goes, oh no, that's not actually a thing. Like, I'm not Chinese, I'm Korean. What's weird though is she says she comes from a school where she used to have friends. She experienced a little bit of bullying, but this school is like totally different. Like, everybody seems to hate her, everyone's judging her, everyone's mean to her, and she finds solace in Park. But she said that, but like the chapter before, the black girls in her gym class specifically like invited her to lunch and were helping her take pads off her locker because she was being bullied. And they were like standing up for her. They asked her out to lunch like multiple times, but she was like, I have no friends here. And I was like, no, you do. So I don't know what that's about. I feel like maybe this should have just been Eleanor's journey of like with making new friends and finding a love interest and whatever. It didn't need to be Park's story as well. Not that it's inherently like problematic to write a character from a background that you do not have yourself, but I think it's pretty understandable if you're not writing for the community that you're representing. If you're not writing a book for them, for a group of people to enjoy, then maybe you shouldn't be writing it. And I actually think Eleanor and Park is one of those books that was, maybe I'm making this up, but like was the reason that people started really talking about own voices around this era. And like the We Need Diverse Books initiative really taking the focus because people are writing stories from their own personal experience as Koreans, and they're not getting the same amount of attention as Rainbow Rowell. And so it's not about her not writing certain characters, it's about making sure you as the reader are finding authors who are representing themselves. And obviously not every group is a monolith and people will take issue with different things, and there's so many different experiences out there, but it's just about you making sure that you are thinking about the things that you're reading. And everyone always says, like, to this day, people are like, oh, I just read things that sound interesting. I don't look at an author's background. I don't look at an author's nationality and blah, blah, blah. And like, I partially understand where people are coming from with that. Like, I go out of my way to find diverse books, and most people do, and, you know, reading from a plethora of authors. If you don't do that, if you don't go out of your way to make sure you're doing that, okay, but then how come your bookshelves are still all like white, straight authors? That's what doesn't make sense. Because I also pick up books that sound interesting. Like, when people say that, are they saying that they don't think authors of color are writing good stories? That's what I don't get when they're like, I just want to read a good book. I'm like, yeah, people are out there writing them. Like, what do you mean? Like, I just want to read a good book too. And I happen to find good sounding books from a multitude of people. I'm still in the car, or I'm back in the car. Liam is at Dryland, and I just finished Eleanor and Park. I certainly think it's a choice to select a narrator for this book who is not Korean, who has to imitate Park's mother's Korean accent. It's a choice. As far as my final rating, I really don't feel as enamored with the love story as I did then. I don't think there's enough evidence of these two people being in love. Like, they say beautiful things to each other, but a lot of it is also just them being unhappy and kind of complaining about each other, and it's just like kind of a messy dynamic. And I think that it is something that is needed, like the different types of relationships, because not every type of relationship needs to be something you're aspiring to. In YA, I think there needs to be a plethora of, it can't just be everybody's so sweet and happy and everything's perfect. They're dealing with difficult stuff, especially Eleanor. And Park's storyline is just so much supporting Eleanor, and everything about him like revolves around Eleanor, every single storyline. He's not a fully realized character. We really get so little about him and his background and his mother, and I wonder if it's intentional by Rainbow Rowell, because she didn't want to do too much more research. She just wanted to give her version of, the town she grew up in and the kind of person she was, and then create this love interest to play off of Eleanor, and just didn't put any more thought behind him being a proper character, his parents being proper characters, and us getting to know his mother a little bit and her backstory. She's just like this woman that his big army father like took from South Korea. She gets a little bit of a story present day, but we don't get her history, and that definitely would have fit in the book. And it definitely would have helped Eleanor and her stereotyping. There is a lot of her stereotyping in the book, and I would say a good amount of the time it's called out, whether it's to her or to the reader, but there are plenty of times where it isn't, and a lot of the stereotyping doesn't feel necessary for the story. It would be better without it. So those are my thoughts as people all pull into the parking lot. There were still things I enjoyed about the writing, but I didn't think that the relationship was incredibly compelling. I obviously took issues with like the way that not just Eleanor was acting, but Rainbow Rowell was lacking in exploration to make a really solid novel. I'm glad I reread this one. And next I'm gonna do, did I bring it with me? There it is. I'm gonna move on to Unravel by Callie Reed next. What am I doing reading this book? I do not know if this is worth it. I'm already halfway through. It is a fast read, but like this is just not for me. It's not, I don't know. Is this problematic? Mental health is always like questionable in books, especially if you're using it for the gimmick, for the twist. What I was just thinking is it's not like terrible so far, but once we get to the reveal, that's when it gets like questionable. But I don't think it's worth it for the twist, because like it's just not that interesting. We have this main character whose name I just forgot, Naomi. Naomi is in a mental hospital. That is what is pitched to us. She starts the book off talking to all of her like doctors and the people who are in charge of her, giving her drugs, and her talking about how she hears voices and how the people are trying to convince her that she's crazy and she doesn't know if she really belongs there. And there's this guy who, like, she's hearing his voice. She's having hallucinations, it seems, of this guy, Lachlan. But then we're also following her, like, currently as she's out of the mental hospital, and she's, like, falling for this guy named Max, who is just like super sexy and wealthy and like gives her this new fresh idea of what life could be. And she's moving in with her best friend Lana, and they're just like having a time together while Lana is recovering from something bad that happened to her in childhood. So it's a new adult romance in that it's about her and Max's like relationship. There was sex on page a couple times already, and there's also her reminiscing about when she knew Lachlan in her youth. The time that they originally met, she was 10, he was 15. I think that was the age. And then we're flashing like a little bit forward, and then I think a little bit forward until they're at an age where Lachlan, well, I don't actually know. I don't remember if they're ever actually like dating, but he treats her like a kid sister in the flashbacks that we're getting so far. And I'll give you the expected twist, and the one that I knew was going on I want to say like 20-30% of the way in. I don't really have any updates. I didn't vlog it. I didn't really update my Goodreads. There's no tabs in here. I think I read the ebook, but I think I remember thinking, okay, so she has a multiple personality and her and Lana are probably the same person. Because there was a moment where I was reading this time where it said, we are just two girls with two very distinct personalities. And I was thinking they're probably the same because I think I had read the Basic 8 right before this or something else right before this that was similar. And I loved that being the twist. I loved like thinking that I knew what was going on. And then I was also, I guess, enjoying these different relationships when I hadn't loved a lot of new adult romance. And this I remember liking because it had the twist element. And this isn't something that I need nowadays because I get twists and turns from thrillers. But back in the day, to enjoy a new adult, it needed to have like a little something extra, a little plot twist for sure. So it is a reveal that they are the same person. So she has, I don't know how it's described in here, what language we're using, if they're probably calling it multiple personality disorder. I doubt they say DID. Regardless, I don't know even about the representation of her and Lana because she distinctly sees Lana as another person who she is interacting with regularly. And I just think that that's more of how the book wants to keep things from us rather than giving a good representation of something, right? I think we can agree on that. But the actual extra twist that got me in the end that I'm gonna read soon, Lachlan and Max are also the same person, which is like a crazy gag for the book to pull off. And I don't even know in what way it does it. Like if she just forgets who Lachlan is and meets this guy and he's like, oh, my name's Max. And like, is he in on it? Is he pretending to be Max? Like, the semantics of it, the details of it are lost on me. And I just want to read it to know how it pulls that off. And the reason she has this disorder and the reason that she sees Lana as, she was abused by her father, her best friend, Lana. And I'm assuming like that's when her personality was affected. And the alter or alters, if there's more than one, were created was to protect her. And there was a moment where Lana said, all I want to do is protect you. Looks like a book that doesn't offer any type of phone numbers or resources or like clarity to help people who may be suffering or dealing with the same thing. So again, it's a situation of, well, I don't know anything about this author, but it's representing a community. And then is this book for them? I don't know. I finished Unravel. I don't think anyone will be surprised that my rating has dropped. I actually read a book kind of similar to this. It was pitched as a dark romance maybe like a year ago, and I gave it a 1 or a 2. And I said in the moment, like, I read a book really similar to this 10 years ago, and if I reread it, I'd probably dislike it the same. Yeah, well, this is certainly better written than that one that I recall. I'm giving this one a 2.5. I don't think the story is good enough, not enjoyable enough, that the twist is worth it, especially when the twist is not fully explained and it just leaves you there. It doesn't really answer any, not that there's any questions, but it doesn't take the time to establish like how this really happened or how it really felt for this character or how this could be like a realistic situation that somebody is going through. And also I feel as though the book says that as soon as her abuser is killed, she is then cured of whatever she was going through. That she can now go on and have like this perfect life with her perfect boyfriend because this thing is no longer haunting her and therefore her mental health is now a non-issue. I think the book needed to take more time to say more things. And if it didn't, it's because of the author's lack of understanding what she was actually writing about. I understand my 4-star from 10 years ago, but it is a 2.5 now. I am having a really good day. I went book shopping with my mom this morning. You will see that in a video in February. Realized it's my grandma's birthday. Shout out to her. 9 years old. I have like a reel that is going well on Instagram, which is the first time that's ever happened for me, I think. Because I never really prioritized it or thought about it. And I decided I guess this is kind of like in the theme of 10 years. After having an Instagram for 10 years, I thought, what if I don't just use Instagram to promote my YouTube or as an extension of my YouTube and kind of just like do other things there, not worry so much about the aesthetic, and just like post, you know, the trends that are going on and little snippets of things. So that's one of my goals. Hold me to it for 2025. And a simple reel that I posted is getting decent views, and I think that's fun. And also, most importantly, my book is going well. Not just well, extraordinarily well. Like, I love this. I love the writing. I love Jandy Nelson. And it's so funny because I remember exactly what people were saying about this 10 years ago. The people who loved it talked about the writing and the metaphors, and the people who hated it talked about the writing and the metaphors. And reading it now, oh, I need to turn that off. It's gonna blow right in my microphone. Heat's off. Why can I hear 18,000 dogs barking? The use of language is something that a lot of people just weren't jiving with. And reading it now, I don't see it. Like, I don't understand how it was that much of a put off for people, because things that I've read in the past 10 years and the more extreme metaphorical writing, like, this is nothing. And there's just so much to love about it. Basically, the plot is we have twins. We have Jude and Noah, and the book is told in 2 different timelines. Noah's perspective is in a certain timeline and Jude's perspective is a couple years later. And there's something that has occurred that has kind of fractured their relationship. They both kind of have love stories going on. Jude is finding a love for herself and a love for art. And Noah is also has a love for art. That was their thing. That's their connection to their mother, and they always fight about who their mother loves more. And their mother wants them to go to this certain art school and is spending like a year preparing them, getting them ready so they can attend and get their portfolios perfect, because art is so important to her. And Jude has been struggling with it more, and she's gonna work with this sculptor and meeting him in his workshop, and there's like an assistant there that she has a connection to. It's just so beautiful, and Noah's story is so beautiful. The writing is so beautiful. It'll say things. I have a lot of tabs that I feel similarly about now, where they say things like when you're so stressed out or you want to convey like something was really shocking. Jude threw up like electric lime colored puke, vomit, paint all over the walls as an over the top metaphor of like trying to establish how important or like how strong certain emotions are. It's in this surrealist kind of way, but it is casual. If you've seen the Sky is Everywhere movie, which I don't recommend, like I didn't like it. The book is wonderful and the writing is similar in just like the over the top, like slightly surrealist lens. And I wanted to love the movie, but I just didn't. And this is similar in that Jude is watching Noah fling himself off a cliff into the ocean, and she'll say he slowed down right before he hit the water. They'll be fighting and it'll say like their shadows were in the background strangling each other. It's kind of like the way that Confessions of a Shopaholic, the movie, is like there's some magical things happening behind her as she walks around. It's really not as heavy-handed or frequently mentioned as I remember, based on people's strong dislike of the writing. Oh, I'm just having the best time. All right, I finished my book. First up, let's see what I said about it 10 years ago. How'd I pitch it?
All right, I'll give you this one first, and I gave that a 5-star rating. It was so good. So good. It is one of the books I'm totally going to recommend to people all the time now. It's about a boy and a girl named Jude and Noah. They're twins, and it's just a beautifully written story about their first loves, and there's a lot of focus on their parents and their art. I don't want to say art careers because they're still in high school. They have dreams of being artists. They're very artistic. The book is written in an artistic way. Just the way that the twins speak, it's just really cool. It's just a really nice read, and yeah, I don't want to say anything else about it. Just read it. Just go out and read it.
If that's how I pitched it to you people and you went out and read the book and loved it, like, you're welcome, but also I'm sorry for the terrible, terrible pitch. Can I do a better job now? Probably not. The thing that you're wondering and the kind of mystery of the story is what broke these twins apart. There's also some tragic things that occur, and there's some real betrayal. Like, you will not like these characters necessarily all the time. You will not like the choices that they make, but it makes for really real characters, and I'm sure relatable for a lot of people in a lot of ways. And overall, I would say it's a book about art, the love of art, and about realizations about everyone in your life. realizing things that your parents may have kept from you, that your twin has kept from you, that you have kept from yourself. And of course, it has remained a 5-star. This is, I think, one of the best YA books in existence that I would recommend more than almost anything else. Not that I've read like every book out there, but I'm glad I finished here on a high. And this week I reread 6 books. Some of them, the ratings remained, some of them they didn't. So thank you so much for hanging out with me this week, and I'll see you, what's my next vlog? I'm not sure. Oh, I might be reading Bookstagram's favorite books from 2024, so I'll see you then. Bye!